May I have a water, please?
Howdy y'all, welcome back to the channel. Whoa, what was that? You feel that? Getting a bit chilly outside, huh? Weather's getting a little cooler, and hoodie season is upon us. And with that, and considering the inevitable cold front, I think it would be suiting to talk about one of the coolest stoics to ever lace up the hardwood, George Gervin. Now I see you sitting there and asking me, Shark, who's George Gervin? Well, he's basically your favorite player's favorite player. George Gervin, also known as the Iceman, whom, yes, I will be referring to by, was one of the smoothest, coldest, and most unguardable scorers in basketball history.
Oh, damn.
Gervin played professionally between the early 1970s to the mid-80s, but most notably down in good old San Antonio. What made him special wasn't just how many points he scored, but how seamlessly he looked while doing it. Now, in order for you to understand the man, you gotta understand where the ice came from. So sit back, relax, and follow me back down to one of the coldest tundras in the world, Michigan. Born in Detroit, Gervin developed his basketball skills growing up on the city's playgrounds before playing college ball for Eastern Michigan University, where he averaged nearly 30 points per game as a sophomore. However, while competing at an NCAA National Semis game in Evansville, Indiana, Gervin would punch a rival player after a few heated exchanges. In turn, he wasn't only ejected from the game, suspended for the following season, and eventually removed from the team altogether, but invitations to try out for the Olympic and Pan American teams were also withdrawn. This punch, Gervin would later reflect, was a lesson on how you can get frustrated, teaching him how to be patient and understanding with other people, especially on the basketball court. Despite the setback, Gervin would begin his pro career in the ABA, a flashier rival league to the NBA. He was discovered almost by accident while playing for a semi-pro team in Detroit, where he joined the Virginia Squires in January 1972.
Congratulations.
And right away, people noticed how calm and confident he looked with the ball. His game was smooth like silk, with rhythm like music on the court. He wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but he made everything look easy.
Wow.
Gervin's time in Virginia was short-lived, as the Squires' finances weren't very stable, being forced to start trading their best players just to get enough money to keep the lights on. In the space of 4 months, they would trade center Swen Nader and all-star small forward Julius Erving. Yes, that Julius Erving, for cash and draft picks. In January of 1974, Gervin would be traded to the San Antonio Spurs for cash, just to keep the Squires alive, where the ABA would try to block the trade, claiming that by trading their last legitimate star, the Squires would be holding a fire sale.
Oh my god.
The courts would side with the Spurs and approve the trade, where, within just 2 years, the Squires would fold. And fun fact, George Gervin was originally recruited by the USC Trojans out of high school, but after a wild, quote, culture shock in California, he decided to return home, and by his sophomore year, he was already back in an Eastern Michigan jersey, and the rest, as they say, is history from there. Between 1974 and 1976, the Iceman helped turn the Spurs into a powerhouse of the ABA. Although the Spurs wouldn't win an ABA playoff series during Gervin's first 3 years there, their high-powered offense made them very attractive to the NBA and their ability to attract numbers in such a small market. So, when the NBA and ABA merged in 1976, the Spurs became part of the NBA, and the Iceman became a household name. The Spurs transformed a defense-oriented team into an exciting, fast-breaking team that played what Coach Bob Bass called schoolyard basketball.
Damn it, Bob! I'm about to reach over there and tear you a new...
With the Iceman as their centerpiece. In the final season of the ABA in 1976, the Spurs would finish third, rolling into a 5-team postseason playoff, which meant that they faced the number 2 seed, Dr. J, and the New York Nets for the right to play in the 1976 ABA Finals. Pushing the Doctor and Nets to Game 7, but the Nets would complete the series and roll their way to the finals, which they would win. So, What made George Gervin's game so unique?
Sure, I think it's
A master of the finger roll, Gervin seemed to float over his defenders. A nearly unstoppable scorer, averaging over 25 points per game in his prime, Gervin would go on to win 4 scoring titles. And speaking of scoring titles, let's talk about one of the coldest scoring runs in NBA history. Picture this. It's the late 70s, and this is Gervin at his absolute best. A special time as the Iceman's first NBA scoring title came in the 1978 season, with margins down to the 700ths, as some would consider this to be one of the greatest shootouts in NBA history. So let's talk about his opponent. Although David Thompson would come up with a memorable performance in the last game of the season, scoring 73 points, the Iceman would set an NBA record, 33 points in the second quarter alone, where he would sit some of the third and completely in the fourth quarter, still ending the game with 63 points. As they would crunch the numbers, David Thompson would end the season with 27.15 points per game,
Wow.
while Iceman's final season average of 27.22 points per game, clinching the crown over Thompson. In the 79 season, the Spurs would finish second in the East.
What are you talking
Yes, Texas was in the East. People were also hitchhiking and owning pet rocks. It was a weird time to be alive. Anyways, after throwing apples at the doctor and his 76ers in Game 7, advancing forward to take on the Washington Pow-Pows, where the Spurs were one win away from making it to the 1979 NBA Finals,
Yay!
as they were up 3-1 against the Washington Bang Bangs in the conference finals. But, for lack of better terms, completely collapsed, losing 3 straight games to lose the entire series. Despite an upsetting playoff loss and not making it to the finals, Gervin was committed to the Spurs, showing no frustration to his teammates, thus living up to his nickname. Between 1978 and 1982, Iceman would lead the NBA in scoring average 3 years in a row from 1978 to 1980,
Wow.
with a high of 33 points per game in 1980, and again in 1982.
Oh, damn.
Prior to Jordan, Iceman had the most scoring titles of any guard in league history. At the time, he was arguably the best scorer in basketball. His style was all finesse and footwork, not brute force. Iceman didn't talk trash or play with anger. He let his game speak for itself. In the 82 season, the Spurs would once again compete for the championship, and by then, the Spurs had just become a Western Conference franchise, finishing second in the West with a 48-34 record. And the Iceman was carrying the team in scoring, leading the league, averaging nearly 30 points per game, while pulling the Spurs back to the conference finals.
nice.
But got swept by the Showtime Lakers, who would end up winning the 1982 NBA championship.
Oh, God.
The following year, the Spurs were once again competing for a title, and by the end of the 83 season, finishing with a 53-29 record, clinching the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, and making it back to the conference finals.
Yeah, boy.
With the Iceman leading the way, averaging 25 points per game, they would yet again be defeated by the top-seeded Showtime Lakers in 6 games. Well, after dazzling the NBA with his smooth scoring and signature finger roll throughout the 70s and early 80s, George Gervin's post years were quiet, but still carried weight in basketball history. It started right before the 86 season, where Gervin was traded to the Chicago Bulls for power forward David Greenwood, allegedly after missing multiple preseason workouts amid the possibility of being relegated to the bench by new head coach Cotton Fitzsimmons.
Oh, my
In
God.
Chicago, he was no longer the go-to star, as a young Michael Jordan was just starting his rise.
Oh, damn.
Jordan would later state that Gervin was, quote, unhappy after the trade, where this season would be his last season with the NBA after retiring from the league. Although by this time he was aging and no longer at all-star level, Gervin was still effective on the Bulls roster, having another 40-point game performance, season-high 45 points against the Dallas Mavericks, and played all 82 games. The last NBA game of Gervin's career was April 20th, 1986.
Nice.
Jordan's remarkable 63-point game against the Boston Celtics in Game 2 of the first round. Yet, the Bulls would later get swept by the Celtics. After leaving the NBA, George Gervin wasn't done with basketball. He played internationally, including stints in Italy and Spain. Though considered past his prime, the Iceman still gathered attention overseas. In Italy, he averaged 26 points per game, proving his scoring instincts never faded, even if he did lose a bit of his quickness during this time.
Oh my God.
George Gervin became a global ambassador for the game, showing young players in Europe what professional level skill and poise looked like. In his last professional game, he scored 31 points and grabbed 15 boards to keep his team in the first Spanish division. The Spurs would hire the Iceman as an assistant coach from 1992 to 1994, poetically fitting for the Iceman as he closed the final chapters of his playing career. George Gervin played during a key transitional period, from the ABA to the foundations of the modern NBA,
Oh, damn.
then into the early days of international talent development. He helped inspire the globalization of basketball before it became the norm. A mentor and role model, even in a secondary role, a cultural icon, he remained a symbol of cool with his calm demeanor and flashy yet efficient style. Gervin's poise and professionalism left an impression on younger players, including future greats like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. A true Spurs icon before Tim Duncan and the recent dynasty, the Iceman put San Antonio on the basketball map. George Gervin's impact after his Spurs career wasn't about dominance.
Wow.
It was about graceful transition, quiet leadership, and global influence. Gervin is one of 4 players in NBA history to average 30 points per game and shoot 50% on field goals in a season as a guard. This list also includes His Royal Airness himself, Michael Jordan, Chef Stephen Curry, and the reigning MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. George Gervin wasn't just great at scoring, he made it an art form. He gave the Spurs their first superstar and inspired other athletes,
Wow.
citing that basketball great, the Glove, Gary Payton, has stated his childhood idol and favorite player to watch was the Iceman. A true Spurs icon, George Gervin's number 44 jersey was retired by the San Antonio Spurs, and the Iceman is considered one of the best players in franchise history. Since retiring from professional basketball, George Gervin has been active in the San Antonio community by designing organizations for underprivileged children. In 1991, he established the George Gervin Youth Center. In 2021, to commemorate the NBA's 75th anniversary, The Athletic ranked their top 75 players of all time and named Gervin as the 42nd greatest player in NBA history.
Wow.
He may not have been in the spotlight, but he helped shape the game's culture and helped lay the groundwork for basketball's international growth. His quiet legacy endured, even without the headlines. But that's just what I think I know. Who should we spotlight next?
Sure, I think it's...
If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you like, subscribe, and tell us who's on your Mount Rushmore in the comments below. And until next time, y'all be safe, alright? I'm sorry, I know I skipped on it, and I only really did it for a moment, but yeah, for about 6 months, George Gervin and Dr. J were on the same team in the ABA. I mean, looking back, it's kind of like a weird duo. One of those, it's too big to fail type of duos. I don't know, something like seeing D Rose and LeBron James, or KD and Kyrie. You know what I mean?
What are you talking
It's something that you can only kind of see at the Olympics, but for a moment in time, we had that.
Wow.
Subscribe.